Hey folks, this is Mark Maron and you're listening to Tom Clark's Main Event. Alright? Do it!
This is Daddy Show. Step off.
What is up? Welcome to the program. Thank you for tuning in. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tom Clark, and you are listening to Tom Clark's Main Event. This is episode number 25 of the podcast today, and before we go any further, I will bid welcome to all of you who have never listened before. Thanks for coming aboard. To all of you who are returning for your upteenth time, hopefully, welcome back. And to everyone involved, we'll extend to you, as always, the customary laurel and a hearty handshake. Thank you for your support. Thank you for reading. And thank you, as always, for listening. Number 25. It only took me almost a year to get to this point. Isn't that something? This is not exactly what you would call a very punctual podcast. That's not really my bag, man. You know what I mean? I would love to do more. I would love to have more time to do more. But alas, I do what I can in the time I have. So hopefully you've come along for the ride. Hopefully you've enjoyed yourself. As always in the Main Event, we try to educate, entertain, inform, and enlighten. That's our goal. That's what we want to do all the time here. If you're hearing a difference between now and several other episodes you may have listened to in the past, there's a really good reason for that. That's because this time the Main Event is not coming to you from the very lovely and spacious Boink Studios. We are on the road. That's right, folks. The show has gone mobile once again. And as we have done in the past, this could very well be an abbreviated episode. I've said that before. Actually, I said that with episode number 24. And that ended up being about an hour. And my shows usually run at least an hour. So I could be wrong this time, who knows. But here we go, folks. This is something I want to get right down to. I don't want to waste any more time. For any of you that saw Battleground, you likely left that event or turned your TVs off, shaking your heads in surprise, perhaps delight, and maybe even utter disgust. Which leads to the subject of this main event. This main event, Battleground Bewilderment. That's right, folks. That's a 50-cent word if I've ever used one. Good reason for that. There's two major... First of all, the card itself was good. The show was not bad. I don't like to do the whole grading system. I'm not going to sit here and give you a 3-star or 4-star or a letter grade or whatever it is. I don't really do that too much. Other than to tell you that I believe it was a good event. I enjoyed watching it. I thought the guys involved they all gave forth great effort. We saw guys in the ring really putting forth some great stuff and taking care of each other and protecting themselves, protecting each other, and just doing all they can to entertain the crowd, which is what the business is all about, of course. And it looked like everyone, for the most part, was safe. I don't know if there's any headlines out right now. If there are, I've missed them about any potential injuries or whatnot. But it looked like everyone was okay, and we always want the best for these guys and gals in the ring at all times. So that was good to see. No reason to get in the ring, get hurt for any reason at all. Always good to have a good night, have fun, and still tell your story with as much professionalism, as much quality, and as much ability as you possibly can, which is what I thought we saw last night. But, however, and you knew there was a but, however, that's how intense it is. There's two words there. But, however, there are two major controversies, I guess, if you want to call them that came from Battleground. two things that maybe we should have seen coming, two things that we speculated upon, two things that a lot of us wrote about, including yours truly. And maybe I wanted to believe that one of these two things, or perhaps both of these two things, were not going to go down. But hence the reason for my tone is because they did go down. They did happen. The first thing that I want to address right off the bat is Kevin Owens' loss to John Cena. This is a tough one. This is the one that has perhaps gotten the most negativity from fans online and fans all around the world, really. First off, we all know the deal. John is the top guy. It doesn't matter if he has the belt. It doesn't matter if he's in the main event every night or not. John Cena, as long as he is underemployed in that company and is on the card, until someone can replace him as the top money earner, is the top guy. He's the top dog. That's it, and that's all, and that's how it is. A lot of people are not happy about that. A lot of people have lost a lot of sleep over that over the years, 10 plus years now, actually. I have not really been one of those people. I've written a lot about John Cena over the years. I don't know who I've written about the most in my writing career since I've been going strong around 2010. But if I had to wager a guess, it would probably be between Punk and Cena. And, I don't know, man. That might be it. I mean, the guys that I've written about the most, Heyman maybe, Taker perhaps. But John has had a lot of material written about him, a lot of things said about him, and not all positive. A lot of people have a lot of problem with the fact that John is still the top guy. John is still riding high, okay? I don't necessarily. Here's the issue that I have with John Cena as it pertains to what happened at Battleground. I believed that John should have put Kevin over. Now, before you go crazy on me and remind me that John's a top guy and basically repeat back to me everything I just said about his position in the company, let me assure you that yes, I am well aware of his position in the company. I know who he is. I know what he does. I know that the fact that he represents a lot of money to them. I know the fact that he represents a lot of income. He sells a lot of merch. A lot of what they do, and most of what they do really, flows through him. And to believe that John would put a guy over in the third and final match is sort of a stretch. Which is why I think a lot of fans were not expecting Kevin to go over. But I think that once again, WWE did the bait and switch. They reeled us in, gave us the possibility, I don't want to say promise, that's a bad word, gave us the potential of Kevin Owens going over in this feud, showed us a glimpse of what life would be like with Kevin as a top heel, because for my money he was neck and neck with Seth in terms of number one, number two top heels in the company. As I've said before, that position has been taken up by someone else now. Funny how quick things happen. We'll get to that in a minute. But maybe I shouldn't have been all that surprised that John went over. Again, WWE gave us a glimpse of what we were looking for with Kevin as a top heel, as a top guy, and now suddenly, without warning, it appears as though the rug has been pulled out from underneath of us and Kevin is left doing God knows what. Now, this episode is taking place before the July 20th edition of Monday Night Raw. So Kevin could shock the world and maybe get the United States title on Raw. He could do something else to make a big, bold statement against another superstar. He could do something. I have no idea what that something would be. It seems to me if you wanted to make a big, bold statement, you would pin John Cena, which is what he did, and then maybe go over on Cena in the end. Here's the issue. I've not lost a lot of sleep over this, and you don't see a lot from me on Twitter right now in terms of, oh my God, what a travesty. Okay? The issue is this. I understand this fully going forward, and I always have, okay? I understand that the issue is that for Cena to put someone over in the rubber match, in the final match, that means that guy's a made man. And perhaps Kevin is not a made man just yet. Okay? Name the guys that Cena has actually put over. I had this conversation recently, very recently actually. Name the guys that Cena has actually put over, fully put over. Okay? In recent years. Can you name them? I've got one guy. Daniel Bryan. He faced Daniel in 2013 SummerSlam. 2013, yes. Pretty sure. Don't anyone send me nasty emails there or middle fingers. I don't need that. We're all supposed to be friends here, folks, okay? But anyway, he beats, or Daniel beats him at SummerSlam to become the WWE champion. Okay? They never laid hands on each other again. That was it. Game over. Done. John put him over. Didn't get a return match against Daniel. And Daniel never went back after him. Things happened. Daniel got hurt. When he came back, he continued his pursuit of the championship. Okay? Nothing happened between those two guys from that point on. So Daniel, in my opinion, I don't know who else you could think of, was the last guy that John truly put over 100%. He's put over Edge in the past. He's put over Randy in the past. He put over Punk and then beat Punk in the end. At the end of the day, CM Punk lost the feud with John Cena. Well, he ultimately lost it because he left. Before anyone raises their hands and corrects me on that one. You got a good point there. He ultimately lost the feud because, yes, he did leave. But John won that last match. Remember? It was the year that, if Punk had won, he was getting the title shot against Rock at WrestleMania. And it didn't happen because John won. Okay? And that's a big deal. And, again, when you're the top guy, everything flows through you. You're the top money man. You sell the most merch. You sell the most tickets. People want to come see you. Okay? Truth. So, how many guys are you actually supposed to put over? Fully put over, mind you. I mean, really, how many are we talking about? How many guys is John expected to fully put over and it be realistic? There's the key right there, that one word, realistic, folks. Because if John puts over, this guy, eventually John's no longer the top guy. Why? Because he can lose in high pressure situations. He wouldn't be clutch. If there's one guy that you can describe as Mr. Clutch in WWE, it's John Cena. I've said numerous times before, I'm very surprised to this day his likeness is not incorporated into the WWE logo like Jerry West is in the NBA. Because he's who that company is. He represents them. He's who they want. See? And that's a big deal, right? He's who they want. So if he puts over this guy, and this guy, then eventually he's no longer the top guy. Food for thought. Just food for thought. So any one of the fans out there, myself included, who were hoping beyond hope that Owens was going to go over, we perhaps had lost focus and lost sight of the fact that John just can't go putting any old person over any old time they want him to or he wants to. There's a debate about that on Twitter last night as well. The night of Battleground, there were Twitter debates like crazy. There always are. One of the things engaged in was, once again, John Cena refuses to put a guy over when he could have. And, of course, the immediate counter to that argument is, well, John is not the booker. My response to that is, he's John Cena. If he wants to put somebody over, he'll put them over. Right or wrong? Now, here's the funny part, the tricky part, I should say, about that particular debate. It can go either way. It can go back and forth all day long. You don't really know who's right and who's wrong. Because to me, both sides have an interesting point to make. Both sides have, a point. They really do. It makes a lot of sense for both sides of the conversation. It does for me. Perfect sense. But my issue with it, again, is John's position in the company He can only do so much. And we've all forgotten that. I don't know if it's because it's hate that comes from a lot of fans out there that want to see John gone. It's not that way with yours truly. I don't have any hate against John Cena, honestly. I've criticized the guy quite a bit in years past, and probably will continue to criticize him whenever the need arises. None of it's meant personally. None of it's meant to bash him as a man or as a performer. It's just because I get frustrated along with everyone else out there. I get frustrated because it really appears as though there is no effort being made at all to move ahead. Evolution is a huge word in the business. Gigantic. It's enormous. Just like it is in everyday life, evolution is a huge word. And it means a lot to a lot of people, man. In the business of professional wrestling, evolution is everything. Okay? It wasn't just a gimmick. It wasn't just a stable. Evolution is getting a company from point A to point B. Allowing them what they need, the time they need to grow, to hopefully prosper, to evolve to that next level. Part of the evolution of a pro wrestling company means that your top guys change at some point. Okay, the mantle is being handed over to the next generation. We're seeing a lot of that with NXT, with guys like Owens, with Sami Zayn, with Finn Balor, Samoa Joe. Guys that are coming up, guys that are getting a taste of success on the main roster, on the worldwide stage that is WWE. And we know that eventually the company will begin to bleed into the future with those guys at the very top. But the problem with that theory is that John is still there. This is unlike any situation I think that maybe we've ever seen in the business to this point. Because if you factor in the amount of years Hogan was on top, the amount of years Austin was on top, the amount of years that Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart and those guys were on top, and then to other companies, the amount of years that Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes were on top in the NWA and Jim Crockett, the number of years that Sting was on top in WCW. Okay? How many years are we talking about? What's the shelf life here? Okay? What's the shelf life here? I believe that we are looking at a situation that maybe we've never witnessed before in the business as fans. And that is John Cena, as the top guy, has been the top guy for so many years now. Okay? For so many years. He's been the staple. He's been the top headliner. He's been the guy. And the entire company around him, the faces may change. But at the end of the day, nothing really changes. You see what I mean? Because it's always going to be him at the top. That's where frustration sets in. Frustration sets in with fans that hate his guts. Because again, they want to see him gone. That's not me. I don't want to see him gone. Okay? My frustration sets in with the fact that WWE can't seem to get that evolution kicked in. Would it have been so bad if John would have done the job to Kevin? Would it have been so bad? Kevin could have cheated. Kevin's a heel. What happened to heels cheating? I miss the days when heels cheated to win. People have a lot of problem with that. I don't. I think that's silly to expect a heel who spends his days and nights blasting the fans, being rude, crude, and uncouth, as it were, being diabolical, and saying that they would do whatever it takes to get the job done. But then when the match happens, they don't pull the tights. They don't take out a foreign object. They don't use the ropes for leverage. They don't divert the referee's attention so the manager can do something bad. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing illegal happens. So what's up with that? I would have been perfectly fine if Kevin would have won that match, not winning it clean. He's a heel, right? He didn't necessarily have to pin John clean. To pin John Cena clean twice in the same feud, and the second time you pin him as the match that ends the feud, you are essentially driving the nail in. Isn't that it? Isn't it over? I'm not saying for good, but think about it. When's the last time that situation has happened with John Cena? Chew on that for a while, okay? But as I said before, there's a lot of controversy, a lot of things going on about this match, a lot of stuff being said on social media, Twitter especially, man, from both sides of the table, from the boys in the locker room to the fans outside the locker room. And yes, if you are not in the locker room, if you are not behind that curtain, you are a mark. I am, and you are too, so shut up. I had this debate recently, and I reached out to Matt Hardy, who's I've been friendly with in the past, who's an absolute top-notch guy. Reached out for a little support, and I said, Matt, back me up here. And Mark is just a wrestling fan. It's stop using the word in such a negative way. And he absolutely agreed with me. It's the truth. We use the word mark as an insult. To be a mark is not an insult. It goes back to the same idea of, words can only hurt if you allow them to hurt. If you get called a bad name, oh, it hurt my feelings. Well, yeah, but you let it hurt your feelings, okay? If it comes from friends or family, that's one thing. But if it just comes out of the blue from somebody you don't know or whatever, oh, I got my feelings hurt. Or I'm mad. Why? You allowed that to happen. So I don't get offended when people call me Mark. It just ticks me off. I'm not offended, but it upsets me because people don't know how to use the word. That's the issue I have with it, man. Always has been, always will be. Truth. But for fans out there who were on Twitter, as we speak, debating why Owens should have went over, and to the guys in the locker room who are debating the other side of it, saying that Owens did a great job, we should just be happy with that. In fact, two particular Twitter debates that are raging, probably still right to this point as we talk about this, X-Pac and Bully Ray. Bully Ray made the comment that Owens did not have to go over to get over. Shut the F up and just enjoy wrestling. Here's the problem, Bully. A lot of people who were upset didn't enjoy wrestling when they saw that Kevin didn't go over. It makes sense. The theory makes sense. In theory, it makes perfect sense. Everything he said, I'm with it. I agree with every word he said, straight up. But then when you end it with just enjoy wrestling, well, there are many fans out there saying, I can't. Kevin didn't go over. This makes no sense. I don't like when things don't make sense, so I don't enjoy myself. Does that mean I won't watch? X-Pac put forth the idea that, well, do you do this when you go watch a movie or watch a TV show? If you don't like it that much, stop watching. That to me is like the best comeback I've ever heard in my life. And no disrespect intended to Bully or X-Pac. Those guys got in the ring, they got it done, and they put their lives on the line to entertain people like us, and just regular folks who just want to enjoy the business. Truth, right? But I have an issue with someone that suggests I should just stop watching. I don't complain because it's, well, listen, if this show doesn't go the way I want it to, I'm done. I'm never watching it again. And you stand there and you fold your arms and you pout in the corner. That's not me. I don't want that at all, dude. Not a bit. I don't want that. I'm going to be a fan till I'm old and gray and then some, all right? I'm a lifelong fan. I'm never going to stop watching. Seriously, never going to stop watching. So just because I complain doesn't mean I'm going to stop. It's just frustrating, man. It's very frustrating. That's all it is. And a lot of frustration right now because Owens didn't go over. I wrote the column recently on Bleacher. Actually, it might have been the last one I wrote this past weekend, that Kevin had to go over at Battleground. He had to. For all this to mean something, Kevin had to go over. Because if not, at the end of the day, we would all be left shaking our heads like we were last night, watching Battleground, saying, what was all this for? Do you see what I mean? Why build this guy up and give him these great spots where he's healing out, where he is just making you hate him? You want to cheer him, that he says things that are like, he's evil, mean, and nasty. He reminds me a lot of Ole, right? Because I consider Kevin to have Ole Anderson's temperament and have Bam Bam Bigelow's moveset. Because he really reminds me a lot of Bam Bam. Very agile for a big man, can get it done in the ring. has a very even keel when he cuts promos. He doesn't yell, doesn't scream, doesn't need to. Gets his point across at normal volume just fine, okay? But the idea that all this was done for nothing, just to put John over. Remember the Nexus? People talk about the Nexus to this day as being this great faction. I'm thinking, I don't think there's anything great about them. I think they made an impact. I think it was good in the long term because it got guys into the company from NXT, from the program, and got them on TV and made stars out of them. Wade Barrett, Ryback, Titus O'Neil, and those guys are there, because of NXT. Darren Young. I mean, it's just, they're there, and it worked. You can't say it didn't work. It absolutely worked. In the long run. In the short term, it was terrible. Because at the end of the day, the only thing the Nexus was there for was to put John over again. And I remember when all that was going on, I wrote that column as well, and I said, mark my words, this whole thing is just going to be to put John over. And guess what? It was. I was right about that. I was wrong about the fact that I thought that Owens had a great chance to go over at Battleground, because it did not happen. How do you sum all this up, man? Is it over for Owens? Is it completely over? Is his rise to the top now dead in the water? I believe his momentum is dead. As I said, this episode's taking place before Raw, so anything can happen. Anything can happen in the business of professional wrestling. If you've been a fan longer than 10 minutes, you're well aware of this, man. Anything can happen. Truth, right? But the problem is that you did a lot to get him to that point. And now who's he going to face? Who's Kevin going to work that's bigger than John? Or that's as comparable to John in terms of star power? Do they even have anyone? Daniel would have been the next guy. Daniel's on the shelf. Which, by the way, a bit of news this past week, again on Twitter. There's a phony interview going around out there where Daniel supposedly said that he's done. Well, he's not. Said on Twitter he's coming back. Reason to celebrate. Good luck to him. I hope he can. I want to see him back in the ring. But aside from Daniel and John, Kevin really has no one to make a huge statement on. He really doesn't, man. That's a big deal. So I don't think his career is dead. I think there's going to be a lot of work to do to get him back to that level, if I'm being honest. Again, if something great happens with July 20th edition of Monday Night Raw to make me change my mind, so be it. I hope it does. I just think it's a shame that it seems as though that all this work was being done to get Kevin in a great place, only to do the job of Cena. And again, all those people out there who have issue with that, who complain with it and say that, well, you're not being patient, WWE knows what it's doing. You really trust a pro wrestling company to get the booking right? This is WWE we're talking about here, folks. Do you really think this plan was on the books for months on end? It's well within the realm of possibility that WWE would write this thing as they go. They've done it before. For anyone out there to believe that this thing was, the wheels were set in motion a year ago or 6 months ago or even a month ago, I don't believe any of that. Seriously, I think the possibility is entirely there. They're writing this thing from week to week. I know they change off the cuff whenever they need to. Okay? So to have complete faith and trust in a pro wrestling company, to me, is just a little silly. They have every ability, every moment in the world, every possibility to be wrong. They do, okay? Just like we do. But they do. It's truth. So, that's the one... Didn't that take a while? That's the one sort of, again, controversy, I guess, is the best word. The second one, maybe, is not as complex. Brock Lesnar was within a heartbeat, you could say, of winning back the WWE World Heavyweight Championship from Seth Rollins. When the lights go out, the bell dings twice, and bam, when the lights come back up, the dead man's in the ring. We all heard the rumors. Yours truly did a podcast about them. In fact, it was number 24. Please go check it out. It's awesome. I think it's awesome anyway. Wrote a column about it on my own blog, which I will plug at the end of the program here. And a lot of people out there wrote about it and talked about it and debated about it and screamed and yelled and cried about it, couldn't wait about it and anticipated about it. The return of The Undertaker, man. And Sting. Everyone thought Sting was going to come back at Battleground. Didn't happen. Could happen at the Raw afterward. We'll see. We'll all find out together, won't we? But Undertaker comes back, one of the top baby faces of all time in the history of that company. Forget legend, forget icon, okay? Because he is those things as well. But also one of the top baby faces of all time. And who does he have heat with the moment he comes back? The top baby face in the company. Here's the issue. When you target the top baby face of the company, that makes you the top heel. Yes? Not now. Not with Taker. Taker's not healing out. It's not going to be a heel run. It's not big evil Undertaker on the motorcycle. Okay? This is not. Taker's out for revenge against Brock Lesnar, who pinned him clean at WrestleMania 30. Couldn't get that out without laughing. Did you catch that? Undertaker is out for vengeance, redemption. Brock Lesnar must have vengeance for beating me clean at WrestleMania 30. Okay, so here it is. Brock lays out Kane, who is Undertaker's baby brother, as Paul Heyman all reminded us last week on Raw, which was, by the way, very awesome. Right? So, Brock lays out Kane, takes him out of the equation. Let's remind everyone, before we go any further, who Kane is. Kane happens to be in the top heel faction in WWE. Okay? And he's also right-hand man to the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, who happens to be the top heel in the company. And the whole group is led by the top corporate heel guy, who is Triple H, and his corporate heel wife, Stephanie McMahon. They're all heels. There's a great big fat heel party going on. Party up in here, up in here. Don't be late. Don't hesitate. Yo-yo, big up for the heels. Okay? So now we know who all these guys are, especially the big red machine, Kane. Major heel, yes? That's who Brock lays out. Takes him out of the equation. So Undertaker, as a top babyface of all time for WWE, evidently has a major problem with his major top heel brother being laid out by the other top babyface in the company right now. Wow. Okay. So, where do I start with this? I'm getting choked. Where do I start with this? I have no idea where this is going. To me, and again, I don't really go a whole lot based upon rumor and gossip and innuendo, but the scuttlebutt right now with fans online, pretty much fans everywhere, is that WWE's ratings are in the toilet, okay? And they want to fill up the SummerSlam card, to get the buys in, to sell tickets, to sell merch, to get people watching again, to get the ratings up on the Monday Night Raw, and of course Thursday Night SmackDown leading up to SummerSlam. Makes perfect sense. So the answer is to just throw Undertaker directly onto Battleground and direct, conflict with Brock Lesnar. This is the part of the booking that I have a lot of problem with, okay? Big time, major problem with, alright? I don't know if I'm buying this. I will tell you this, from the moment that the lights went up and Taker was seen, he was over, alright? He's Undertaker, of course he's over, no doubt about it. Dude is over sitting on his couch at home, not doing a thing except eating chips. I'm never over, I'm at home sitting on the couch eating chips. I'm just saying. But that's how over the guy is. It's amazing. And deservedly so. Not taking anything away from him, don't get me wrong here. But Brock Lesnar, again, was the top, and I say was, he's not now. He's not now. Brock Lesnar, as of the July 20th edition of Monday Night Raw, more than likely, is going to become the top heel again. Or number 2, next to Seth. One of the two. Yep. So there's Kevin's spot taken by Brock. You see there? Funny, right? But Brock Lesnar now was your top babyface, and now, again, direct conflict with the dead man who, wants revenge for getting pinned clean a year ago. Which I have no idea where they're going with this. Here's what I think. I think they just want a SummerSlam match to sell tickets and to get ratings up on Raw, and that's why they're doing all this. As we just said, they wanted it, so they did it. Vince McMahon or Hunter or whoever it was made the decision. I got an idea. Just put them in a big rematch from WrestleMania last year. And I would hope on some level, at least you hope so, somebody in the room would have raised their hand perhaps and said, I'm sorry, what? Does this make any sense right now? Shouldn't Brock heel out first? Because Taker looked upset, didn't he? He had that crazy look in his eyes, as if he was just, he's hell-bent for leather and he's out for blood. Why? I'm not sure. There's only one reason. What is it? Because Brock took Kane out. Because he took Kane out because Paul Heyman mocked family. The family connection between Kane and Undertaker. It's the only thing that makes any sense, man. It's the only reason that Undertaker would come back looking the way he looked at Battleground. It's the only reason that makes any sense to anyone on the planet. Is that he has heat now with Brock because of Kane being taken out of the equation. Which makes no sense whatsoever. This is where the bewilderment comes into play here, okay? The direct divide between fans and the talent lies in the fact that far too often incidents happen, match finishes happen that defy the understanding, confuse the eye, and confound the understanding. They defy all logic. Now, here's the tricky part. Anyone behind the curtain looks at us as a collective and says, they don't know what they're talking about. We do. We know the storyline. We know what we're doing. It will all make sense. They just need to calm down. They shouldn't tell us how to do our jobs, and they couldn't book a match if their life depended on it. Okay, all right. Here's the problem I have. Once you make that statement, you shut off all forms of communication. And by the same token, if on this side of the table you make the statement that everyone on that side of the table doesn't get it, this is about us. We're the ones paying our hard-earned money. They should make us happy. John Cena should have lost Kevin Owens' Battleground because it would have made sense. I'm tired of stuff not making sense. Because your average fan can boil it down to one very simple statement. I'm tired of stuff not making sense. You put that on a t-shirt, and every pro wrestling fan that has a brain in its head would know it. You have to put a wrestling logo on there and a wrestling ring or whatever. It's just nonsense. Just a very simple catchphrase on a t-shirt. I'm tired of stuff not making sense. It's the truth. Here's the problem with that. The moment you make that statement, you have shut off all forms of communication with the guys behind the curtain. There's got to be some sort of middle ground here. Are the guys right behind the curtain? Absolutely. They are 100% right. Are the guys on this side of the table and the other side of the curtain right? Absolutely 100% certain that we're right. It's the truth. Why? Because we both have solid points to make. Both sides of the argument have very, very solid points to make. Okay? This thing with Taker and Brock has not been fleshed out yet, I'll give you that. This thing with Taker and Brock it's got a long way to go, obviously. Do we know everything? No, we don't. Why? Because Monday Night Raw has not happened, neither is anything else. All we know is what we saw at Battleground. Get it? Does that mean it's going to make sense? No, it doesn't. Okay? Should we be patient and see what happens next? Of course we should. Just because we all get upset and frustrated during a pay-per-view or during an event on WWE Network doesn't mean we gave up. Again, the idea that I'm just going to stop watching wrestling because I get upset over an event, I would have stopped watching 30 years ago if that's the case. Right? That's not going to happen. Not for me. I'm not a fair weather fan, dude. Never have been, never will be. It's the truth. I'm a lifelong fan till the day I'm dead. You know what I mean? That's it. Period. End of story. But it doesn't mean I can't have an opinion. It doesn't mean I can't want to see something better happen. I'm tired of stuff not making sense. Am I the only one? No, I'm not. It's the truth, man. I'm not the only one out there that's upset by this whole thing. Does that make me a crybaby? Does that make me one of these guys that's just too impatient, not willing to say the course? I think everyone involved is an idiot. I didn't say that. Do I think the storyline writers are complete morons? I didn't say that either. Do I think they're out of touch at times? Absolutely. You better believe it. But there's no need to get personal here. It's not that personal. I love the business, but it's not the end-all be-all of my existence. Okay? Take a perspective, man. You have to, all right? But again, the bewilderment that surrounds Battleground is the same bewilderment that surrounds so many different events from that company. Undertaker, top babyface of all time, comes back against the current top babyface in WWE. The guy that is red hot, smoking hot. Dude is on fire, right? No doubt. He's not now. Fire has been extinguished. Quenched. It's evaporated. It's been reduced. It's expired. The flame has burned out. It's over. Okay? Now, Brock will have to be relegated to either the top or second top heel in the company, and that's perfectly fine. It's a role he's played numerous times before. He's more than equipped to handle it. It's not an issue. My issue is he was red hot, smoking hot, and now he's being replaced essentially by a guy that's going to be gone after SummerSlam, and you probably won't see him again at WrestleMania. That's the issue I have. No disrespect to Taker of what he's accomplished. No disrespect to Taker in terms of who he is and what he's done for that company and for the business. I'm not suggesting he come back full time. Please don't light your torches and grab your pitchforks and sharpen them and start a raid on the House of Clark just yet. I'm not suggesting he doesn't deserve to call his own shots. Never said any of that stuff. All I'm saying is, for the sake of that company, for the sake of our sanity as wrestling fans, actually, be straight about it, in terms of making stuff make sense like we all want it to, does it really make a lot of sense to see what we saw at Battleground? And what can they do to spin this to make this come out right? Because once he's gone, who becomes the top babyface again? It's not going to be Roman, right? Is it going to be John again? Are we going to see John elevated back to the championship? Don't be surprised. Heard it here first. Do you think it's going to happen? Do I think it's going to happen? I don't know. Every time I think one way about John, I get proven another way. Right? I think we probably all have one time or another. And that's all right. I don't mind having to guess. I don't mind being surprised. I'm perfectly fine with that. You talk about, well, you know, all fans want us to be surprised. They want something out of the ordinary. And then when that something out of the ordinary happens, they complain about it. Not so. We all kind of knew Taker was going to be there. The news broke several days beforehand, so we knew about it. A few days, I should say. So we knew about it. I was just a little surprised by the way he was brought back because, again, why? It just doesn't make any sense, man. And not really, you know? But the amazement, the surprise, the confusion, the frustration that goes along with any WWE presentation is bound to happen at some time or another. And that's the truth. It can happen at any time, man. Happen at Battleground. It's going to happen again eventually. At another event. Could be SummerSlam. Who knows, man? Totally. Who knows what can happen, really? But, again, the idea that we're supposed to keep our mouths shut and just enjoy the show. Let me ask you something. When's the last time you watched your favorite team lose a game and not have an opinion? When's the last time you saw your favorite team not play as hard as they could and they lost the game? Did you keep your mouth shut? Did you not complain? Did you not get upset? Did you not throw something at your TV? Does that make you a bad person? Does that make you a bad fan? Does that mean you're never going to support your team again, never watch them again? The answer is no to all of that, dude. All of it. It just means you want your team to be better and do as good as it can. Now, my experience and my connection to pro wrestling is a lot deeper than a lot of other folks out there. I get that. I come at it, from more of a cerebral level and And I'm very deep in terms of my thoughts and opinions on the business. And I'm not trying to sound melodramatic here. It's just how my head's wired up for this stuff, okay? So I understand not a lot of people out there share the same opinions I have. I get that, totally. But I firmly believe that we have the right to want the product to just become better, to be as good as it can be. Because you go back and you watch the clips of Austin versus The Rock. You go back and watch the clips of Rick versus Dusty. You go back and watch the clip of Nikita turning babyface and joining Dusty Rhodes in the cage that night in the NWA. You go back and you watch the fan reaction. You go back and listen to the crowd. You go back and watch all this stuff take place and watch it happening and watch it unfold in front of your very eyes. And you hear the response and you hear how crazy fans go for this stuff and how much it means and the goosebumps that happen and the storyline the storyline effects that happen as a result of the greatest moments in the history of the business. And you hear and you see all of that stuff and you just want to hear and see it as much as possible. Does that make you a bad fan? Does that make you a bad person? Does that mean all you do is complain? Does that mean you can't say something at all? Are you kidding me right now? Now some people take it too far. That's the truth. A lot of people take it too far. People can get really mean and nasty about this stuff, man. I've seen and read it myself several times in the past. That's why I try to come at this from an even keel. I try to be open-minded. I try not to be closed-minded when I write or when I debate anyone about professional wrestling. It's silly to do it. Don't ever do it. Don't back yourself into a corner and say the best writer there is. Don't back yourself into a corner and say your opinion is the only one that counts. It's not the case, man. Someone else's opinion is going to come along. It's going to make a lot of sense to you. You're going to be forced to reevaluate what you thought before. I do that. A lot of people do that. You should. Okay? So there's some bad content out there. There's some bad stuff. There's some bad reviews right now by people who don't care if the business gets better. They don't care if the product gets better. They're just ticked off. You know who those people are. The problem that we have as fans is that a lot of guys behind the curtain cannot differentiate between us and them, those sets of fans. They can't do it, or they don't want to. They group us all in together in this big pile and think that we're all naive and small-minded and don't understand how pro wrestling is supposed to work. I consider myself like any fan would of any sport that he's followed his entire life. If you watch basketball from the moment you were 5 years old to the moment you were 40 years old, then you probably know how the game's played. Does it mean you can go out and play it? Not necessarily. Does it mean you could draw up some plays? More than likely, yes. Does it mean you could win some games? No, maybe not. But you know how the game's played. You see what I'm saying? You're a student of the game. Now, unlike a lot of other writers out there, I would never call myself a student of the game because I'm not in the game. My game is a bit different. My industry, my business, is writing about the business. Okay? My game is a little bit different. It's still got its ups and downs. It's still got its subtle nuances. It's still got its level of expertise. My game is a bit different. I'm a student of my game. Okay? Shawn Michaels is a student of professional wrestling. Steve Austin, Stone Cold, is a student of the game of professional wrestling. Big difference between those guys and myself. And I would never presume to be on the same level as those guys. A lot of writers do. You watch them, they'll carry on conversations on Twitter, and it's hilarious. Where they try to speak the lingo and stuff, and we all do it. I'm as guilty as anyone else. Speaking the lingo, you know the terms and stuff. Try to carry on that conversation with a pro wrestler. Guess what? They're not impressed. They're not impressed that you know how to use the Google machine and look stuff up. They don't care about you, man. It doesn't mean they hate you. Don't get me wrong. They don't really care about you much, okay? You're a mark to them. Remember? You're on this side of the fence, this side of the curtain. You're a mark to them. Bottom line. But all of the angst surrounding what happened at Battleground is going to continue. Why? Because we're all human, because we all have opinions, because those opinions are never going to be silenced by anyone from WWE or any other pro wrestling company from that matter. It's never going to happen, dude. Ever. Okay? So Battleground will be the last time you see or hear it. It will not be, I promise you. This is not the worst we've ever seen. Not the best, but it's not the worst either. And guess what, folks? Life goes on, okay? The sun rose the day after Battleground, as I'm sure it's going to rise tomorrow. And if it doesn't, then none of us are going to be around to know the difference either way, right? Just take it in stride, man. Enjoy it for what it is. Get upset if you want to. Perfectly fine. Enjoy the show and don't question the logic of it if you want to do that too. Perfectly fine as well. Whatever you want to do, man. But I would suggest to you, and I would highly hope and really put this out there for you. Again, high hopes here. That you want the business to get better. You want the product to get better. Okay? I want the business to be around for another 40 years. Alright? I want it to be around twice as long as it has been so far. I'm serious. I think it's important. I think it's the one true American art form is professional wrestling. I've always believed that. Okay? And for me, I want the product to get better. And WWE is the biggest pro wrestling company on the planet. So their level is different from everyone else's, which means their product is seen more than anyone else's, okay? Which means their product needs to be as good as it possibly can be. Not so the McMahons get richer, because the guys involved make as much money as they possibly can, have a great quality of life, and entertain us to the moon and back, as always, as they are very capable of doing, and have done so many times in the past. Well, as I said before, folks, I get very deep when it comes to this stuff. We're only covering 2 matches. Did I mention that to you? I don't think I did. This is all I wanted to cover this time. There's a lot more we could say about Battleground. Again, the card was a good card. It was a good night in terms of the effort put forth by everyone. The 2 moments of controversy sort of stand out, which is why I had to talk about them today and sort of get my feelings and opinions out there for the whole world to hear, including yourselves, my great audience. I had to thank you folks for tuning in. I had to thank you for supporting me as always. And that's going to do it for the main event this time around, folks. Remember, please give me a follow on Twitter at TomClarkBR. If you want to drop me a line, you can give me an email, TomClarkBR@yahoo.com. I am on the Tumblr. I'm also on Pinterest, TomClarkBR. Everywhere you go, that's me, man. And I also have a new fan page on Facebook. Just go to Facebook, look up Tom Clark's Main Event, and bam, there I am in all my bearded glory. That's me, folks. Please follow my stuff. I am, of course, on Bleacher Report as a WWE feature columnist on the WWE page. Just search my name and you will find me, I assure you. And I'm also on the highly esteemed Camel Clutch blog, as well as my own blog, which is tomclarkbr.wix.com/blog. And no, I've not bought the destination name yet. Please stop giving me a hard time, because you know I'm both cheap and lazy. So, listen, hope you had fun. Hope it wasn't too much of a drag for you. I can't wait to see what's going to happen on Monday night. So I try to be positive. It's hard. You know what I mean? Stuff happens on WWE Network at these events, and, you know, it sort of leaves me guessing along with everyone else. So it's kind of a wacky time for us, but it's whatever, man. It's all good, right? But I'm very anxious to see what happens on the July 20th edition of Monday Night Raw. Hopefully it will be good stuff. Hopefully you will enjoy it. Hopefully I will as well. And we will come back here, debate all this stuff again real soon, I'm sure, for episode number 26. And in August, we're going to celebrate the year anniversary of the main event and hopefully have a guest star or two on, as we've been promising to do for a few episodes now. And hopefully we will make that happen in the very near future. Thanks again, folks, for tuning in. Thanks for listening. We do appreciate it. We will see you next time on Tom Clark's Main Event.